Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is 11:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Friday, I was about to say Thursday. Friday, March the 20th, 2020. Yes, I did not do a show yesterday. You are not in the Twilight Zone. I was too busy with voiceover work, catching up on voiceover work in this crazy, fucked up time, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, it's episode 32 of McRae Live, and today I'm very excited to have my best friend of nearly 30 years on the show. Bruce Dale is his name. He is, we've known each other since 1992. Hard to believe, going all the way back to 1992. We're going to be talking It's Me, Billy today. We're going to be talking a little bit of the COVID-19 situation as it relates to the film industry as well, how that affects It's Me, Billy. But we want to get excited and talk It's Me, Billy here as well. Bruce Dale is on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce, how the hell are you?
What's up, guys? What's up, everyone? How you doing?
Oh,
What's
my God. Dude, I've been wanting to get you. People have been asking about you and getting you on this show, and here you are. You are finally here. Bruce, we go back all the way to 1992.
Yeah, man. Dude, for the folks that are tuning in right now, I just moved, right? And of course, I've got boxes in storage with memory stuff, old artwork, old VHS tapes of films that, Dave and I did back in the day. And so I opened up some of these boxes. I'm cracking open the photo things. Dude, I got to share with you some photos that are from like when we were like 16, our trip to like Florida and shit. Like we were like, dude, it was dope. Like
I love
trip
it.
down memory lane. Super cool.
I love it.
Yeah, no, man, it's great to be on the show, and I'm super excited. And I want everybody to know I've been like wanting to come on here like way sooner and way more often, but man, life is like ridiculously busy between full-time work and just
being a dad,
managing the film and like whatever else is going on. So it's just awesome to be here and great to connect with everybody. It's
yeah,
cool.
For sure, man. Well, I'm excited to have you on. Look, we go back. I mean, we've known each other nearly 30 years, and which is hard to believe. It's so cool because we sort of like, we grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada as teenagers, and we were making amateur movies back in the day when you had to edit VCR to VCR. You kids don't know how fucking lucky you guys are right now.
Yeah, you guys have no idea. Like, dude, when Max came out with iMovie, I was like, yo, where was this when we were kids?
Yeah.
We were like, no joke. We were VHS deck to VHS deck. And if there's anybody that's watching that's like, what the fuck is a VHS? Google it. But essentially we literally had one deck sitting next to the other deck, and we would like play it, record onto the other one. We'd have to like stop it just at the right point and then pick it up at the next point. And then if we didn't have two VHS decks, we were filming and editing in the camera at the same time. So it was like, okay, we gotta roll that back a little bit. And if you remember, we got really good at knowing how many seconds we had to rewind or leave at the end of the take because of the delay that the camera would take to begin recording. So it was like, we had like 7 seconds. So wind it back 7 seconds, and we got like super precise.
Yes.
And then, those
that's
kinds of details we had to focus on. Like,
that's so funny that you mentioned that, because I remember that now. I remember shooting.
You remember that, eh?
Yeah, and you'd hit record, but there was always like that 1 second or 2 second delay before it started to actually record. And I remember having to go, because we would edit in camera.
Yes.
We would edit in camera, and we would cut scenes and edit. I remember that. You know what? It's funny. My stepmother at the time, who has since passed away, but I remember one of the compliments she gave us as kids was she was so impressed with our ability to actually edit in the camera. Like, you guys are editing, because we're not like she would expect us to come. Nobody was doing that. No. Like, we're actually, it was funny. It was, I forgot about that delay and how like we'd look at it, and then sometimes we would cut off the previous scene and we were like, fuck, there's dialogue that's cut off. We got to go back and shoot that scene now.
Yeah, we got to go back and reshoot it. And it was like, fuck, well, that was a great take. And and that was the thing, is like, if we screwed up the take, we had to rewind the tape to, again, the previous shot. So like the more takes we had to do, the more risk we ran of screwing up the previous shot that we had nailed.
That's right.
So it was like one thing after another. So we got really good at it. And then, do you remember, so for music, right? Because, you know, all audio, we had to use, you know, everyone's voice in camera. And of course, we're using the onboard microphone on the camera, which wasn't awesome.
Like this is 1993, folks.
Yeah, 1993. We're like 13, 14 years old, right?
Yeah.
Running around. And then in order to have music, we had either a Walkman, like a cassette player, right? Or a ghetto blaster. And we had to hold it a particular distance from the microphone on board the camera.
That's right.
In order to get the music. So it was sort of like, okay, we had to like time it out, rehearse it. So someone would like press play, but we had like press play so you don't hear the click of the button. But then,
yeah, because what you do is we'd have it on pause. So the play button would be down and the pause button would be down, and we'd ask the person with the ghetto blaster to actually push the pause button down but not release it yet. So it's pushed down, and all you have to do is just slowly remove your finger and it starts. Right? So you don't hear the click. That's right.
That's
right.
So it's like all those little idiosyncrasies and like details that we had to like focus on to try. And that's how we were making movies as kids. Now you pick up your cell phone and you're like shooting some shit, editing it on there.
You got like pretty impressive apps that can edit videos and shit. Like it's unbelievable.
Like, what you can do now, I'm like, yo, if we like, I'm just telling you, like what we would have created and been able to do if we had this technology back then.
Oh, 100%.
So I think this is why, like, for me, you know, I'm always excited when we do link up on a project, because then it's like, well, now that we do have access to this tech, now that we are more advanced with our practices, we've got more experience under our belt, all of that. Well, you know, like the sky's the limit on what we could achieve, right? Like
that's exciting.
That's
exact. Oh yeah, for sure. And now I don't even know if they do, but when we were in film school, or at least when I was, we were editing our 16 millimeter films on the Steenbeck or the Steinbeck or whatever it was. And now, of course, I don't even think they would bother teaching that now, or maybe they do. It's just kind of a cool thing, but certainly
I think it's kind of like they incorporate it now as part of their like film history. Like there's some faculty that I've spoken with, a few institutions across Canada, and they might still have a Steinbeck sitting, you know, kicking around, but then it's strictly for film history, or they might have like a you know, a lunchtime club, and if you're really interested, then you know they'll do it, right? And there might be like 3 or 4 students that are like, oh, I want to hear more about this history, and like really they love the nostalgia, you know?
Oh, for sure. One thing too I want to mention before we move on too is one of the movies, I think it was we did a trilogy of films that were totally based on Michael Myers, but it was not Michael Myers. And we took the subtitle of the original Halloween, which of course was The Night He Came. Oh, sorry, The Night He Came Home. And we made our own movie called The Night He Came.
I think the first one was just The Night He Came.
Right. And then we made a sequel called The Night He Came Back. And then we made a third one called The Night It Came to an End. This was like early to mid 90s. And I remember in that third movie, we had
Yes, I know what you're going to say.
But you see, at like 15 years old, you're like I'm thinking of our 15-year-old selves, and we're like, oh my God, that's amazing. We had a scene where one of our characters walks out of an apartment building and gets into a car. And as they get into the car, as the door, and you see this all the time in real movies, right? As the door shuts, it ignites something and the car just explodes. Well, obviously we don't have the ability to do that. And we weren't going to do it with like our dinky cars or whatever from the 80s. So we actually, was it The Specialist with Sylvester Stallone? I think so. I think there's a scene in that movie where somebody gets into a car and the car explodes. And so what we did is we actually we shot the scene where our character comes out of the apartment building, closes the door, and what we did, again, we had to edit in camera. We stopped at that moment as soon as the door shuts, and then we were at your house.
Yeah.
You had The Specialist on VHS, I think, because I think that was like 95 or something like that. It was one. I'm pretty sure it was a Stallone film, and
Yeah, I
and
think
we
you're right.
zoomed the camera up onto the TV, so you couldn't see the border of the television. It's just the screen is filling the entire frame, and we shot this massive explosion in this car where this. In the movie, this character's like in the seat,
Yeah.
strapped in a seatbelt, flying out of the car, this massive explosion, and it looks funny. Does it look real? It
was great.
No, but it looked real to us in 1994.
Yeah.
or five,
Dude,
or whatever.
I remember like we had to like scour these different movies trying to find like a car that explodes that's a
Mm-hmm.
similar make and model to the car that we had access to in real life. Right? Trying to match it up.
right.
Because
It's
that
your
meant you
dad's
can't
car.
have, like, we had like a silver car. You can't have like a blue car and then suddenly like
Right.
cut to it, right?
That's right.
And it needed to be like outdoors at nighttime. Like there was a few some criteria we had to meet,
Yeah.
right? And it was, but we did it. We did
Yeah.
it. And it was super cool. I remember our parents were really impressed with us.
They were.
They saw it like, how the fuck did you guys do that shit? Like,
Oh yeah, it's like what? Because it was so because you see, at that time it was unexpected. It was kind of like you're watching this movie as parents, and you're like, Jesus, there's a massive, and it looked. It looked good enough that it takes you by surprise for a moment, because of how perfect the edit was. You know what I mean? And that's what helped it. As soon as it just clunked, like it just was so like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And of course you watch it now and it's completely obvious. But in 1994 or 5 or whatever that was, it was impressive. So Bruce and I have been making movies for a long time, and then of course what's really cool is we both pursue different careers, but still within the film and entertainment industry. And I think it's so neat that we've sort of come full circle in our lives here in Toronto, and of course being the epicenter of filmmaking. Toronto and Vancouver sort of share that back and forth, but Toronto certainly being the New York of Canada, being a hotbed for filmmaking. I mean, it's the third largest film and TV production center in North America, and it begins to share that title with Vancouver now, of course. But it's there, and to be involved in the film industry. And in the entertainment industry with you, it's I don't know, it's kind of surreal to me at times, because I look back to when we were kids and now we're sort of a part of the industry on the professional level, which is so surreal in a lot of ways. And that's a great segue into what you do, because I'm a voice actor. That's my day-to-day job, working in the industry. And of course, I've done Hollywood film trailers and network promos and commercials and animation, all that kind of stuff. It's been an amazing experience for me. You work for William F. White International, or Whites for short, which is Canada's largest distributor of motion picture and television lighting and grip gear. Of course, you guys have a camera department now too, right?
We do. Yeah. We pretty much have everything from like camera, lighting, grip, generators, specialty equipment, which is like the remote heads and the cranes, chase vehicles, tracking vehicles, and then we also have
those chase vehicles are awesome. I remember being down there, and I was like, I want to fucking I just want to drive one to the store. I mean, this is really what I want to do. I just want to drive one to the store.
there's I'll come right back to that. The other
Oh, great, he's got a story.
We have is location equipment supply, and they've got all the peripherals and stuff. Like from traffic control to like, where are we going to sit to eat? Your stuff for that. And so much more. Like it's a massive inventory.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And
I mean, so some of the, sorry, go ahead. There's a bit of go ahead.
The thing I was going to say is the chase vehicle, one of them, it looks like a miniature Batmobile, and it's
It
called
does.
the Commander. And that was one that I think we got you a photo, you sitting in it, right? And it was like, that's the one that we want to like drive around every day. Like, it's just cool.
Well, because it's got like the arm and the rig on the front of it, which is where the camera would go. And like they use that shit probably, they probably use that for Suicide Squad, actually. Probably.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I know that when they did the reboot of RoboCop several years ago, they used that as well. I think that was the year that we acquired it. And then they also had a motorcycle rig, because there were shots where RoboCop was riding a motorcycle through the streets. So then there was an operator who followed on a motorcycle with the camera rig and remote head on the front of it. They did other shots with the commander as well. And so it's pretty cool. And as far as I know, it goes out regular use. And that department is always onboarding new tech, like they just came out, I think it was last year or the year before, they just acquired 100-foot telescopic crane. So from the fulcrum point, when you extend the arm out, it reaches 100 feet. Wow. And the types of shots, like I remember being in film school, and I remember there was a techno crane that was out, or it might have been Movie Bird. I don't know the brand at that time. But I remember seeing a shot that was done, and my film teacher showed us something that came out of Hollywood where they did this massive tracking shot. It was gorgeous, just beautiful, cinematic, right? And the shot lasted forever. You went up on this hill and you came down, and it was this whole thing. And it's cool to circle back, be involved, certainly from the rental house point of view, where I see this technology and and hear about it, and to be able to interact with the technicians who are working on set and dealing with all of that. Like it's pretty cool. And the tech is super cool.
100%. And what's so cool too is many opportunities where I get to live vicariously through you, because there's a lot of things, I mean, I know a lot about a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of things that, you don't know. And there's a lot of things that you've taught me over the years as well. And being able to listen to you talk about the newest gear that's coming in, or the newest this that's coming in, or now, like, we're getting rid of that light and now it's these lights now, or you got this going on. And it's just so cool to be able to, like some of the technology that is being used is really, really cool. Do you know what I mean? Did you turn off a light where you are? For some reason you look darker. Or did the sun go by a cloud?
I have a lamp over. Yeah, I have a lamp over here. I'm just like adjusting the mood lighting. It's just a little bit of, I want everybody to feel comfortable.
Bruce Tail, yeah. That's like this really warm tungsten sort of mood, kind of. Yeah. Hey,
everybody feel comfy,
Well,
it's like back in the day, that show where you pull up the two armchairs next to the fireplace. That's right. The giant, whatever the giant was.
That's a Canadian show. Our American friends probably wouldn't know about it. The Friendly Giant, unless it went south of the border. Maybe it did. I don't know. But yeah, no, White's, and look, some of the films that White's has supplied gear for, of course, I included it in the little write up I did. But it's you sometimes forget how many productions White's has been a part of. Everything from Chapter 1 and 2 to Sonic, to Inception, to The Shape of Water, to Shazam, to Deadpool, to you name it. Your company has, well, not your company, but the company you work for, Bruce's company, has been a part of the film industry at the highest level, and the productions that White's has supplied gear for is impressive, and it is.
It's pretty cool. Like you said, it's everything from those major feature films,
right?
To television series. Like we also supply the equipment for a lot of the CW TV stuff, like The Flash, Supergirl, Arrow, things like that. And then there's a few new things coming on board. We also supply for Riverdale.
Right.
And then there's, all kinds of commercials, independent feature films, Canadian pieces. Like there's a lot of domestic productions that we also
support. It's me, Billy.
That's right. And then there's but that's the other thing too, is like, White's also supplies to like, student films and small independent productions and everything in between. And I think that's one of the things that the company's done a really good job at. And certainly, my department's had a strong role to play in helping to break down some of those barriers, because it's a normal tendency for folks to look at a large company and go, well, how do, these guys don't want to do business with me. Like, why would I want to do business with they're not going to think of me, the little guy kind of thing,
Right.
But that's not true. Like, we've supported independent and emerging filmmakers from jump, and we continue to. as well as the major Hollywood blockbuster productions and
Right.
everything in between. You know, like I manage, for the folks on the line that may not be aware, I manage the education and training department.
I
So
did mention that. Yes.
cool. So we like focus on the staff training, you know, teaching our staff the product knowledge, because of course they need to know about the equipment that they're shipping and handling when dealing with our customers and our technicians and stuff.
That's right.
And then we also handle a lot of other job specific training, and then also a lot of health and safety related training. And then there's a few external outreach type things that we do. You know, we've got like a national grants program for post-secondary students and film festivals to, what's it called? You know, we have a generator seminar and stuff. But, you know, and of course, you know, probably goes without saying, but due to the situation with COVID-19, you know, there's a lot of that stuff we've had to postpone. To be responsible in our approach, and you know, we're paying very close attention to what the government's releasing, and the company is doing a very good job at taking care of its people and taking care of you know, communications with the clients and whatnot. So you know, just doing our best to kind of manage that situation. And
Right.
that's definitely been, as a national manager in my position, also managing my team and working with them to make sure that you know, we still got directives and we're still moving forward as best we can.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but a lot of really great stuff going on.
Cool. Before we talk about It's Me, Billy, let's talk about how because obviously it's a very interesting time right now in regards to what is going on. How, you know, from your perspective, you know, let's talk, because obviously, I mean, it's, you know, we read the articles, we know what's going on. I've been dealing with it here, you know, on the voiceover side of things, and it's one of the reasons why I had to push yesterday's show, or excuse me, cancel it, because there was voiceover work that came in that I needed to do, and stuff that, and then I'm scheduled to go into a studio next week in Toronto, but we're trying to figure out to do some national spots, but we're trying to figure out, you know, whether that's still going to be a go or whether it's going to be recorded from home. And like everybody, you know, whether you know, work in the entertainment industry or not, is experiencing the effects of this. And from your perspective, you know, working in the film industry where you are, talk about, you know, a bit about how this has impacted the film industry and how, I mean, we know sort of what we read and see, but you have an interesting perspective working for whites and you know, talk a bit about that.
Yeah, well, you know, nationwide within Canada, of course, a lot of productions, majority of productions, if not all, have chosen to take a responsible approach in putting in a hiatus for their shooting schedule and asking folks to just patiently wait out for at least a couple of weeks. And most productions have followed the Canadian government's mandate, and each province is a bit different. But here
Yeah.
in Canada, there's a few provinces that, you know, as folks may be aware of in the news, like schools were closed. It's our spring break. In fact, today is the last day of our spring
Yeah.
break in our public school system here in Canada.
Very similar. When you look at the United States and you look at Canada, very similar things have happened. You know, the schools are canceled, the bars, the restaurants, the gyms, the movie theaters. It's very
Pretty
similar.
much the
Here.
same.
Yeah, it's the same.
So as a result, the film productions all acknowledge and recognize that it's the most responsible thing to do to put a hiatus in on the schedule.
Yeah.
Now, you know, it is the best thing to be doing, and I think the biggest from that, there is a concern that has surfaced, which is the economic impact, which I know is also
Right.
heavily discussed in a lot of articles. But when you have a halt in production, both, you know, domestically and internationally, now you have a delay in content that's being produced because as you and I know, there is a particular schedule and timeline.
Yeah.
It is an industry. It's labeled as an industry for a reason because
That's
its goal is to output product, and
That's
that
right.
product being your TV show, your commercials, advertising, like whatever it is.
That's
Well,
right.
when there's a halt in that production schedule, it puts a halt on all of the other things. Now, I know that a lot of producers and production companies are are looking to focus their time and energy on, say, continued prep and development, if there's projects in development
Right.
and any pieces that can be done remotely. Or in, and then there's also maybe post-production work that can be continued, because a lot of post-production work too is done from studio spaces. I don't know if the editors are given access to the studios or if they've kind of, closed those down temporarily. But there's a lot of stuff that's hosted on servers and things that are done sometimes can maybe be accessed remotely. So
Right.
I don't know, like that piece, I'm speculating a bit. I don't have as much in-depth knowledge with the Post, but I do know enough about it though, like to give an educated estimate on what I would imagine would be happening.
Some editors, depending on who it is, you're right, might actually have a setup at home where they may even be able to maybe not have immediate access to some of the things that they might need, but maybe being able to continue to cut the film from
offline edits.
That's right. From home is more than likely taking place quite a bit, actually.
So I think that the general impression that I've gotten is a few streams where productions have gone on hiatus out of necessity and to be responsible and mindful toward their production crew members, their families, and that community.
That's right.
And as well, looking at anything that they can continue to do work on, because the industry also has to prepare for, I think we all have a general consensus that, COVID-19 will eventually, especially once a vaccine is developed, I have confidence that our scientists will do that. When that will happen, who knows? But when we're able to work through this and reach an endpoint with it, productions will want to ramp up as quickly as possible and get back on track. So I know businesses in the industry and whatnot are also beginning to think and plan for that, because and it's not just the film industry, but many other businesses.
Of course.
And that's what we call that continuity of business, right? How do we maintain things, which is fair, reasonable, and important.
That's right.
So leaders are really focusing a lot of attention on that. And then I think the other piece is the income that may be lost. Because if productions aren't shooting, not every company is able to afford to pay their staff if they're not working, right?
That's right.
So what happens, and a lot of technicians on set, they're freelance, right?
That's right.
They're independent contractors, essentially,
That's right. Most
for all intents and purposes. So, it'll be interesting to see what role the unions might play to maybe provide some assistance. I was reading about the government's $82 billion economic plan that they're
That's
putting
here in Canada, by the way, folks. Canada.
That's in Canada.
Yeah.
So the Canadian government has made some adjustments to employment insurance, but then they've also put in a specific fund. There's two funds that I'm forgetting the name of them, but there's two funds that they're going to make accessible, I think, as of early April, first week of April, for people that are self-employed contractors, so that they can apply. Essentially, it's a type of employment insurance,
right?
But specifically designated for people who are also, like, think about skilled trades, people that own their own business and they can't operate anymore because people are self-quarantined, or they're quarantined out of necessity, or whatever it is, the social distancing. So there's a lot of people impacted, not just in the film industry, but beyond that. So I know folks are cognizant of that, and I think the government's doing a good job here to try to help inject some money into the economy, help take care of these people on a financial level. And I know that there's more details and information to come. So,
well, something that's interesting too.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, is you probably remember this as well. Is in 2003 the whole SARS thing, And I think it's important to note too that my understanding, somebody reached out to me yesterday who works in the medical industry, and he said, and again, I'm speaking on this is what I was told. I'm not a medical professional, but they said one thing that has sort of bothered them about the coverage of the coronavirus is that the coronavirus is like SARS was a coronavirus. And he said it's like having a bunch of pizza, but it's the pineapple pizza that we should be, so it's COVID-19 is the specific name of this strand.
Correct.
And he said, I even think, and I stand to be corrected, but I even think the regular flu is a type of coronavirus.
Yes.
So to say, beware of the coronavirus is we probably all get it at some point in our lives. We get different strands.
The common cold is a strain
is a type,
of the coronavirus.
Right. So it's very important, and I see this a lot. I think it's important to be able to make the distinction, as not because you can get tested, you can get tested positive for a coronavirus, but it's not necessarily COVID-19, which is what you don't want, right? So it's like, oh, you have pizza, but you don't got the pineapple pizza, so that's good, And I forget who it was now. If you're watching, thank you for that clarification because it's really important, and I get the impression that he's coming from the States, and he said that a lot of the media coverage down there is just pumping out the word coronavirus, which is fine. But up here in Canada, I noticed they've made the transition more to COVID-19, which I think is more, I think that's what it should be, because you don't want to unnecessarily, because moving forward, because coronavirus will now be in the pop culture, moving forward, you don't want somebody to be unnecessarily scared because they have a cold now, right? You know what I mean? Or they've got this or that. So really, really important. And also too, one last thing I want to say is that from my understanding is that as we move into the warmer months, and spring is, well, I guess today is the first day of spring, funny enough. I think, Bruce had to have Bruce on the first day of spring. So my understanding is that as the weather, warms up, that's actually a good thing for containing the virus. Right. So, and I do know that sort of again, I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying that, it's like SARS, but SARS being another type of respiratory coronavirus. I do remember in 2003, because of course we had that SARS stock concert up here in Toronto in August, and it had the Rolling Stones and AC/DC and all that. And that was to get people out and to get people sort of not afraid. And that was August. So it's maybe the same thing might happen again in terms of as the weather warms up a bit, the numbers begin to drop, and then you see people sort of, coming out of their shells and coming out of their homes, and slowly but surely we're getting things back on track. So hopefully with any luck, maybe it'll see the same thing, but time will tell,
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think to add to what you're saying, perspective is essential.
Absolutely.
And, the media, listen, as people who work in the media entertainment industry, I will always tell you that, probably, 50% of the shit that's reported, you can just disregard it. It's a bunch of bullshit and nonsense. That's my opinion. But it's true though. Like, just, there's a lot of dog shit out there, but then there's also facts. It's that, my point of view and the approach that I've taken is to remain focused on the facts, consulting reputable sources that are science-based, and really educate yourself on the facts, cross-check those facts against those different sites, and put things into perspective. Right. And don't, as to quote, just don't believe the hype. Just like it's sort of, don't panic is what I'm saying. Yeah, and that's the approach I've chosen to take.
To piggyback on what you said, I made a post on Facebook a couple of days ago that went well with. I probably shouldn't have made it on my personal Facebook page because, people are. I mean, I made it on my many things. I've since removed those posts, and the reason why I removed them is not because I don't believe in them. I do, but I think because of the situation that's going on, I think. And again, not everybody, but I think there were some people that were were misunderstanding what I was trying to say. And sometimes through text, you lose nuance, you lose context, you lose intention. You're just reading. If you feel a certain emotional way, you read into something that may not be there. And I made a tweet about this too. I said that last year in Canada, there were about 1,800 car accident deaths and about 38,000 car accident deaths in the US. And I said, if the 24-hour news media, I said, covered those car accident deaths like they did or are this virus. Again, I'm not comparing the two statistics saying they're equal. I'm talking about the 24-hour news cycle. That, let's think about this. If they did do that, covered that just as much with red dots and states and maps and all that kind of stuff, people would be petrified to drive. Because there would be like 5-6 deaths every day, probably from car accidents, right? But we're not aware of that. So, but my focus was basically saying, I'm not comparing. I wasn't saying that the statistics are equal. I was saying that I had to use that as an analogy to draw perspective about how the 24-hour news media's job is to create news when there isn't any, because they have to be on 24 hours a day. So what ends up happening is that there will be, and I'm not saying they're lying about the news. I'm saying that what ends up happening, although that, sometimes maybe they do, who knows? But I'm talking about when news breaks, they will play that breaking news for hours. Until
it's sort of like the music on the radio, where it's the same
until
song.
something else breaks. So what ends up like years ago, way before our time even, you would tune into the 6 o'clock news and you would hear the news or the 11 o'clock news, and that was it. You might read the newspaper in the morning, but that was it. You may talk about it with your friends at work, but that you weren't inundated. And look, there's good and bad. There's good things that come from a 24-hour news thing. 100%, my goodness, of course. But there's just as much anxiety and paranoia that can be created, because what ends up happening is that you're watching when news breaks. Let's say news breaks in the morning, right? Let's say Trump or Trudeau makes an announcement at 9 a.m. Well, that announcement at 9 a.m. is breaking news and the number one story from 9 to 10 to 11 to 12 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. If you're sitting there, it's not new news. It was new 7 hours ago. It's no longer new. But because they're 24-hour news channels, they have to keep talking about it every hour on the hour with guests on and panels and experts and this and that. And it's just, and it gets into your psyche, and it's in there and it's in there and it's in there and it's in there. And then finally, maybe at 9 o'clock at night, something else will, new information will come out. And then that's on, for 10, 11, 12, and it just keeps going and going and going. And that was sort of my point, that hypothetically, if they were doing that with car accidents, people would be afraid to drive. I'm not saying that this is that the car accidents is just as severe as this incredibly dangerous and contagious virus. I'm not saying that. I was trying to put the focus on the 24-hour news cycle, and how it's because of the 24-hour news cycle that people are fighting over toilet paper in the lines at Walmart. That's what that does. That's what that does.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
And
it ensues. It builds that panic, and that's why I said the approach I've chosen to take for myself is to really coach myself in my mind, not to panic, stick to the facts.
Right.
I think it's important that people are supportive of each other and respectful of each other.
That's right.
And and same with businesses. There's been a lot of really nice compassion that's been extended by different businesses toward
100%.
their employees.
Yeah.
And I know that many businesses wish that they could extend more, but it may be beyond their means, and that's not their fault. It just is what it is
100%.
due to the circumstances and
That's right.
the size of their business. And sometimes there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And that's fair and reasonable. And it's unfortunate.
It is.
But I understand it is what it is as well.
Yeah.
But it's
you're bang on.
it's important to stick with perspective, educate myself on the facts as much as possible, and really stick to the facts and try to, I've been talking with my kids, educating them, just trying to have, casual conversations. I approach it that way because, again, I want to, I want to educate them. I want them to have a healthy perspective about it. And so that way, when a situation comes up that is very, very serious, that we do need to panic, then it's truthful, it's meaningful, because then there's sort of that I'll use grayscale for lack of a better term,
Right.
where you understand that spectrum, and
Right.
and that's what it's about. And I'm not trying to downplay COVID-19 at all, because
Nor was I.
it is exponentially growing and rising, and there are a lot of folks very negatively impacted, like so many
100%.
people. And it's and I don't think anybody really thinks about how far reaching that impact is when it first hits, right?
Right.
And it takes a little bit for that to sink in.
Right.
And that's why I say I think it's important we just remain supportive of each other as much as possible, be caring and kind to each other, because that's going to go a long way, especially if things do draw out. And
right.
It's really just, I've always, one of our other friends, one of Dave and I, we have another friend, and, his philosophy is always, be nice, just be nice to each other.
100%.
And that's, I always thought that was a good words to live by. So
Yes.
shout out to Bill on that
Yeah.
one.
Hey, Bill, how you doing? Yeah, Bill. No, you're right. And it's why it's why I decided to remove the post. Not because I didn't believe with what I was saying, is because I realize that I think under the circumstances, people are they're going to more than likely, not everybody, I mean, there were some people that got what I was trying to say, but more than likely, I think certain people are going to misunderstand, focus more on the stat that I put up rather than what I was trying to get at. And I understand, again, for those of you that may have taken that the wrong way, I am certainly not comparing car accident stats to COVID-19. I was simply trying to let people know that hypothetically, if the news media covered a lot of horrific things that go on in the world 24 hours a day, all day, we'd be petrified of a lot of things. So it's important that we are aware of what's going on. We're connected to what's happening. We're aware of the situation.
Take necessary precautions.
But take necessary precautions.
Absolutely.
so we can make informed decisions
Yes.
based on evidence and facts, and not knee-jerk decisions based on
right.
fear. And
That's right.
that was my point. Whereas, yes, there are 38,000 car accident fatalities in the United States, and we still go out and drive because it's not, but hypothetically, if that was brought to our conscious mind through the news every single day, we would be afraid to drive. So that was sort of my point, was we have to be calm, we have to be rational so we can make those informed decisions. But I thought it was best to remove the post because I just think under the circumstances, I think people are going to read it in a way that I did not intend it.
Right. Fair enough.
But I do agree with what you're saying, and it's a
challenging time.
It is.
And it is, and I just want to say, shout out to everybody that's listening and on the line right now, because it's like,
we got about 100 people watching right now.
Yeah, and we send much love to you and your families and the communities that you're all living in, because we know it's not easy, and we nobody knows what's going to happen, but I think if we just stick together and help each other, just stay. I think that's the best positive kind of philosophy to take during
100%.
turbulent times. It's tough, right?
Oh, it is. It's very tough. I mean, I'm so thankful that I can do what I do, most of my work from home. And that's a plus for sure, because not everybody can do that. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody is doing that. There is still, within the VO industry, there are certain productions and voiceover sessions that are being canceled and halted and delayed because of the situation as well. So, it's affecting every business and every facet, not just the entertainment industry, but of course, everybody. Yeah. So I agree with Bruce. We just have to keep calm. My point of that post was everybody keep calm, focused, so we can make rational decisions. And that's the most important thing.
I think you articulated it well with, informed decisions based on facts and science and, evidence.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then add that with being kind, and
that's right.
We'll weather this storm as a people, as a species. We'll,
for sure.
I'd like to believe that. Yeah.
Let's all right. Let's move over to now that our PSA is out of the way. Let's move over. Let's move over to it's me, Billy. This is, folks, if you don't know what It's Me Billy is, It's Me Billy is a fan and tribute film that Bruce and I are in, well, essentially very late development. I mean, we're on the cusp of pre-production. We'll get to that in a moment. But we are really excited about this. This is a Black Christmas fan film. You've heard me talk about it. You've heard me mention it. This is a Black Christmas fan film, and that we are really excited about. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to do a Black Christmas fan film was because there really is nothing online with, in regards to Black Christmas. And, I was inspired, like we all were, by Vincent DeSantis' Never Hike Alone, which took fan films to, a whole new level. Whole other level. And the production value, the editing, the pacing, the acting was just brilliant. It's a fan film by category, but you're watching a movie. You're watching a movie. I mean, it's so good, some people even consider it part of the canon. So, and of course, Vince, if you're watching, I'm going to have Vince on very soon, by the way. I reached out to him and asked him if he'd like to come on. He was like, absolutely, let's do it. So we're going to schedule that soon. But Vince just finished shooting his prequel, Never Hike in the Snow. He was able to get that in just under this whole COVID-19 thing. Right. So now, for those of you that also may not know, Dylan's New Nightmare has been delayed, rightly so. We were going to be shooting that at the end of May. That's not happening right now. We're going to wait and see until this thing dies down, and then Cecil will make an announcement of rescheduling. So that's the right thing to do. Fortunately for Bruce and I, with It's Me Billy, we were not planning on shooting till November. That's still a possibility because it's still far enough away, but it really is a week-to-week, month-by-month thing right now. We'll talk more about that in a second. But so, what Vince has done with Never Hike Alone and his little sort of web series that he's created here is shows you what's possible when, professional independent filmmakers come on board and really sort of do something for themselves, but do something for the fans and really sort of, take things to the next level. When you're passionate about IPs and projects and studios, funny enough, I'm getting and again, a studio could shut anything down they wanted to, but I'm getting the impression, just sort of the flavor of the environment, that studios, as long as you're not raising millions of dollars and as long as they're not major feature films that could confuse general audiences, a lot of studios are, I think, beginning to see the value. And as long, of course, they're not for profit. They're not commercial ventures, essentially. We're not selling it to Netflix or anything like that. I think a lot of studios are beginning to see the value in them. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I get that sense that might be beginning because they keep their beloved properties in the pop culture consciousness. Well, that's it. And they keep them, it's free advertising, and they keep them relevant. Yeah. And I mean, as long as it's not slanderous or something, like exactly. that.
But if it's done in a tasteful way that is aiding. And because that's the thing, the approach that Dave and I have taken as producers and writers and directors with It's Me Billy is we want to pay homage to the original. We want our film to be crafted in the same vein, but of course modernize it where appropriate, but come at it with the artistic vision so that it feels, smells, tastes like, it belongs in the family. It is part of... If it were considered that, it could be considered part of the canon. You know what I mean? That's right. And it's intended to be that. And I think when, I would like to think that when studios and production teams see that, they see that it's not slanderous. It's not intended to be disrespectful. It's no, this is helping to propel our IP. And that's right.
Exactly.
They're taking it to the next level. And, sure, could we come up with some ideas in a not-for-profit fan film and they could rip it off and make it? Cool. Well, you know what? I'll take that as the ultimate form of flattery, that you liked our ideas so much that you decided to incorporate them. Maybe next time give us credit, maybe pay us. But I understand we don't own the IP, so whatever.
But here's what's so interesting. Yeah, exactly.
I recognize we don't have legs to stand on on that level.
But here's what's interesting, though. Here's what's interesting is that, again, going back to last summer, I was, we could have done, because people have asked me, why didn't you do a Halloween fan film in this vein? Because of course I've done a lot of little experimental, things. Of course we did, The Night He Came Back, which was just more for fun and trying to see what we could do with, certain stuff. But people have asked me, why not now take a Halloween thing to the next level and deliver on that? And I was honest, and I was honest, with you, and I said, well, I'm tapped out of Halloween, and I want to leave. Like, there was a Halloween fan film that just came out, done by one of my patrons, JP DeStefano, called Halloween Night, and it's really good. The production value is solid. They did a great job, really nice job. JP, if you're watching, great job again, and it's really well put together. I mean, there's some creative, decisions in there that maybe I wouldn't have done, but at the end of the day, it's solid work. And, and when I was thinking about something to do, because, like a lot of independent filmmakers were inspired by what Vince did, I thought to myself, and of course, the Friday the 13th Halloween fan film space, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's very saturated. There's some that are good, some that are not so good. There's some that are great and some that are kind of in the middle. Yeah. And I guess I was watching Black Christmas one night, and the original from 1974, which is a Canadian movie shot right here in Toronto. And I thought, I'm going to see if there's any Black Christmas fan films. And I YouTubed, and there's one that's an amateur production, like a home film. And then I think there was one other one that was maybe a little higher than that, but sort of amateur at the same time. There essentially is nothing. It's a market where there's nothing, and understandably so, because it's a Canadian movie that is a cult classic, but it's taken a while. It's mostly thanks to the internet that it's really sort of gained more of a broad sort of look and appeal, and it's one of the earliest slasher films. It predates Halloween by 4 years. So anyway, long story short, I said to Bruce, I have, and Bruce wasn't on board right away. I mean, he wasn't on board right away. He was kind of like, okay. So we had to sit down and watch it. Do you remember that? We had to sit down because you hadn't even seen it yet. You hadn't even seen it yet. No.
I had heard all about it for years and years. I had always intended to watch it. And then I was like, okay, let's really see what this is all about. And then, Dave was like, okay, so we linked up, sat down, had a movie night, watched it, did it up. And, and then I started to sort of see and understand, because when I watch movies, that I know are from the 70s or 50s, 60s or 80s, whatever, right? You always have to watch films in the context of their time. You got to think about what was going on, why was it made at that time? The film language has changed. It evolves over time. Yeah. So what was being done then at that point in time? So I watched it with that in mind.
Yeah.
So then it was very much like, okay, Dave, all right, let's do this. And then, we both talked about it more. We hashed out some ideas for the story, and then really decided, well, how can we modernize this? What do we want to do with the story? And what we've made the choice to do is we've written our film so that the story takes place, correct me if I'm wrong here, like 40 to 50 years.
It would be probably...
that film would have ended?
Yeah, it would be, I would say, close to 50 years later.
Okay. So our tribute film is designed and intended to be the sequel. Like,
that's right.
Okay, fast forward 50 years. Where are these characters? What's happening?
What happened to Jess? Did Jess survive? It's sort of out of the bag now that she must have, which is okay. I mean, that I'm okay with. But you're right. It's that, because there was a remake in 2006, which not a lot of people liked. And
I didn't see the remake.
I saw it once, and I just it ruins the ambiguity and the mystique of Billy. And, you find out about his backs, and that's fine. I mean, that's, they wanted to do that. Obviously, it's important that if you do a remake, you make it your own, or you're just doing the same thing over again. And I understand that, but it wasn't very well received. And then of course they redid one, there was the remake from this past Christmas, which rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because of its political angle and its edge, and which is not an opinion. I mean, even the directors of the film says that there is that in there. I mean, that is the intention. Even the quote on,
Right.
I mean, that is why we did this, was because we had this to say. And I think it certainly rubbed certain people the wrong way. And I think they did themselves a disservice. I think Blumhouse did themselves a disservice because, I think anybody should make any kind of movie they want to make. But I think when because of the kind of, it felt a little too on the nose, and I think it felt like you were using the Black Christmas IP to propel your political agenda or narrative or thoughts, and I think that if you had called the movie something else, it would have sat better, I think. I mean, people would have drawn comparisons. Oh, this is kind of like Black Christmas a little bit, but because it's not called that, and there is no Billy in the movie, and that complete history and mythology, it's completely gone. Like, it's a completely new story.
Well, and that's the challenge.
I think you should have just called it something else.
It's that's always the challenge, I think, from a writing, and like my opinion as a director and as a writer, when like if you're going to create a piece that is intended, like it has the same name, right, and it's intended to be part of that series, if you will, then I think it's important to incorporate the aspects of that story, like for it to be considered part of that. Like it would be like making, like, well, just kind of like anything. It would be like me making a space TV series and calling it Star Trek, but it's not. But and that's been done, where there's lots of stuff that's very similar to Star Trek, but it was given a different name.
That's right.
And they've had varying levels of success. And so, like, I agree with you. Anybody should be able to make what they want to make and convey the message that they want to make. That's a huge component of the art and the craft of it. And as artists, what we're doing and what we're trying to bring. Right. But it's but I think that's where, I don't know, for me it's I agree. It's important to keep things in alignment, that if I'm going to say, make a Star Wars fan film, that I have elements of Star Wars universe in there. Right. So if I was to say, if we're making this Black Christmas tribute film, if I can say, the Black Christmas universe, for lack of a better term, we want to make sure that we've got those aspects and those elements and or reference to, so that we've got it. So it's part of the same universe, same story kind of
And
thing,
to be fair, Sophia Takal and April Wolf, who I think was her co-writer, look, it takes place at Christmas time. It takes place in a sorority house. There are some weird phone calls here or there, but it was sort of lost. But there's no Billy, and there's no, it's all about a cult and, all this kind of stuff. And these, and it's the political sort of overtones and undertones are very apparent. And it's very apparent with the opening quote on the screen. I mean, there's an opening quote. I forget what it says now, but there's an opening quote that basically, sets you up that, yes, this is what this movie is going to be about. And I felt that they did themselves a disservice. It bombed at the box office. It didn't do very well. And I don't know how well it's going to do on VOD or, home media, but I just feel that you should have called it something else, Sleigh Girls, Dark Christmas, Dark Night, Snowy Evil, I don't know, whatever. And allow people to make the natural comparisons. But I think maybe otherwise it feels, people are expecting a certain thing and it's not there. And then it feels, they even made it PG-13 as opposed to R, so they could attract more younger girls into the audience.
Right. And that's where I think that kind of thing, like the messaging, I think is great in terms of the empowerment piece and everything that, they're trying to convey with that film. But yeah, like it's so it's that
in and of itself is okay, but it's it doesn't feel organic, right? It feels shoehorned in and sort of too on the nose, because it feels like you're using the Black Christmas name to push this forward, where in reality I think and it failed because you changed the story. It's not Black Christmas. It's not a remake of the original. Listen, like I've said it before, empowering certain people is good, but at the same time, some people that have seen the movie, and I understand what they're saying because I've seen it, have said that it was a rated R movie that was cut to PG-13, and there's a lot of things that were cut in that movie that should not have been. The scenes end awkwardly. The camera moves away awkwardly, and it was because they were trying to get the PG-13 rating to attract a younger audience. And basically, what's happened is that they put their a political sort of narrative ahead of the story, and ahead of the execution of the product. And again, I think you should be able to do what you want, but that doesn't mean people are going to like it. And it doesn't mean people are going to not maybe feel that, maybe if you'd done this instead, it wouldn't feel so invasive and so intrusive. Right. And I think because nobody likes to be told what to think. Nobody likes to be told how to think, right. At least certainly not like that. And I think and I know some women that who watch me who have said, I didn't like the movie. It felt like they were pandering to me, like I can't take care of myself, or that it didn't feel, I don't have a large female audience, but I think only about, 9% of my viewers are female or something like that. But there were a few that, reached out to me and said, it felt too patronizing. And again, and that's not to say that every woman felt that way, but right. I think there were some that saw it and felt like it was just a little too on the nose. You know what I mean? And maybe if it had been a little more subtle, it would have been okay. I can certainly see what they're saying. I mean, it's not a movie that I particularly care to watch again, not because of that necessarily, just because I just didn't particularly enjoy it for me. So anyway, back to It's Me, Billy. But I agree with the principle of it. Like, I understand there's nothing wrong with it, but there's
that messaging get out. But
there's right ways and wrong ways to do it, and I think that's important to remember as well. Yeah. So we were trying to think of we watched it and we saw a void and an opportunity to do a Black Christmas fan film, but take it to the next level. I mean, we work in the industry here in Toronto. We want to be able to use our resources, our connections, and be able to take it to the next level and deliver a sequel, something that hasn't been done before, because the 2006 film was not a sequel, and obviously the 2019 film was not a sequel. They were both remakes.
Well, I guess you might kind of refer to them as, would it be fair to say, reboots? Like a re-imaging, reimagining in 100%.
Yeah, they're remakes. Yeah. Well, the 2019 film is definitely a reimagining for sure. Yeah, for sure. So yeah.
And for us, we definitely made the choice to make our tribute film a continuation of the story and the world from the 1970s film.
That's right.
And then draw from that era of filmmaking and incorporate those elements into our piece. So that's what I mean by it's sort of made in the same vein to a certain extent. But then we've been selective and strategic with our choices on how do we modernize this? Where do we have opportunity to get creative with the story enrich the story, enrich the mythology, enrich these characters, and bring that piece to another level?
That's right.
So for us, I would say it was we really took a different approach with writing the script compared to what you might expect when doing like a slasher thriller film or whatever. We chose to be, I don't know, I think it's fair to say definitely more dramatic moments put in there, more depth to what's happening with the characters.
That's right.
And more story of what's happening.
We were faced with a question. I mean, everybody, well, for those of you that have still yet to see it, the original Black Christmas from 1974 ends on a pretty interesting cliffhanger, and there's an unknown factor there, and the question for me was always, what happened? Now, you don't need to know. I mean, I'll be the first to say that really it is completely that is the whole point of the movie. It's not supposed to you're not supposed to ever know. That's like, oh my God.
What a lot of them ended then too, right?
Of course, that's right.
It's part of the era of
it's part of the era, but it's creepy and it's eerie and it's great.
Yeah.
But we sat down and we thought, let's play, what if? Let's play, hey, what if, like, what did happen to Jess Bradford? What did she die? Did Billy, I mean, he's still in there, and the camera's, panning back, the phone's ringing, and then the credits just start to roll. It's like, what the hell happened? So we came up with a story where, I mean, again, this is no secret. Obviously, she did end up surviving because the central figure in our film is her granddaughter,
Right.
Sam, played by, soon to be played by, not yet, but the incredibly talented Victoria Miro. And Victoria, if you're watching, I don't know if she is. She's probably not, but maybe she will. But she is incredibly talented. Let me see if I can bring up her image here. There she is. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Can you guys still hear me? Let me know if you can still hear me. The meter says I'm on, but let me know if you can still hear me. Just say, yes, we can still hear you, Dave. Or just say yes. Just put a yes there. Just waiting for yeses because I want to make sure that people can still hear me. Just waiting for a yes. People, yes, I can. Great. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this is Victoria Miro, and she is going to be playing the granddaughter of Jess Bradford. And we are incredibly excited to have her on. She was very talented. Her audition was terrific.
The auditions were amazing. I want to say, kudos to everybody who submitted auditions because Dave and I spent, a couple of weeks going through different stages of the audition process and watching a lot of submissions and some very, very talented actresses that came forward with some really great moments, some wonderful nuanced performances, it was just fantastic. And I think Dave will agree that, and pretty much any writer, it's exciting to hear the words that you've written in this script come to life by an actress or actor who, they add their performance to it. They add their own interpretation to it. And I would draw the parallel of when a storyboard artist takes a script, like an animation storyboard artist, and they take the script and they break it down into its beats and its moments, and then they hand it to the director, and the director now sees the film and the story realized for the first time. It's the same for us where we're listening to the auditions and watching them. And immediately Dave and I are now imagining camera angles. We're seeing the nuances with
100%.
And the three ladies that we chose, really did a fantastic job with, even positioning the camera close enough that it could read and pick up on the nuanced expressions. And,
that's right.
And just those little moments. And they clearly conveyed the different characters. They like, we could see it because we work hard in the writing process to write these characters based on what they say, actions they take, how they do. These have to be people. Like, we have to be able, as an audience, we want you to imagine these people and go, yeah, I totally believe these people are real.
That's it.
And so the actresses did a fantastic job in the auditions, like bringing that to life. We realized,
I have Victoria on the screen here. The actor you see between the two of us, that's Victoria Miro, and she's going to be playing Sam, the granddaughter of Jess Bradford.
Yeah. And it was important to us too to try to create that, cast someone that would have some sort of resemblance or believable resemblance to
Olivia Hussey.
Yeah, Olivia Hussey and her character.
Yeah.
Because that's what you would have, right? So again, as when directing and when casting, for those that are new to filmmaking, those are the types of details that you've got to consider. And sort of think through, and it's about thinking through the dynamics of the characters when you're writing them.
That's
how
right.
they're interacting. We want to write them on the page so that when an actress or actor reads it, they can interpret it and they can go, oh, this isn't just a flat two-dimensional whatever. I think we really made a strong effort with our script to flesh this out, to make it as three-dimensional as you can with a thriller film.
Right.
But it's
it's a short film too.
It is, yeah. So there's only so much time you have to do things. But it's not just a slasher. Like, there's more meat to it that we've put in. And some fun twists and turns and unexpectedness, which we're super excited to show people.
We're super excited because what's what's cool is that again, it's nearly 50 years later. So there has to be, who is this girl? You know, the girl you see on the screen right now, right there we go. That's better. The girl you see on the screen right now. I mean, who is she? You know, what was her relationship like with not just her grandmother, but her own mother? So that means that the baby that Jess was pregnant with in the original Black Christmas is this girl here, is Sam's mom, right? Well, what happened to Sam's mom? What's going on there? There's so many, you know, what kind of, there's a lot of things that, you know, are what's she dealing with? Who is she? Where is she right now? Victoria was great. Again, each of the three actors, and I'll bring up their photos here in a second, and then I'll bring them all up together. What I really liked about all of them, Victoria, you see here on the screen, Shelby, Shelby Hanley, who's playing Emma, and of course Malika Henny, I think it is Henny. I think it's Hennie. And Bruce and I agreed. I mean, we put out the call. We received, you know, close to, it was like several hundred submissions, and we had to go through them and then do callbacks and then receive, and then, you know, and we're still, you know, casting a couple of roles as well that we've yet to do, but our leads have been cast, which is great. The one thing that each of these very talented actors had in common for Bruce and I, and it's no fault of the other actors at all. I mean, really everybody that submitted auditions were very talented. Yeah. And really talented. But again, when you are auditioning, and, you know, I know this having to audition all the time, right? I mean, as a VO actor, I audition all the time. And sometimes it can come down to you and one other person, and it's never personal. It's just that person happened to hit something that you just didn't hit that day, right? You know what I mean? There's just, it can be very nuanced like that. And one of the things that we loved about these three in particular was their natural ability to make creative decisions that totally lined up with exactly what Bruce and I were picturing.
The vision that we had.
We had.
And I think the other thing too, one thing that we were very cognizant of and that we thought through was the potential chemistry between the three actresses. Right. And we believe that these three, like, from watching their performances, Dave and I both went, we could imagine all three of these people
100%.
You know, it's funny, friends in real life.
It's funny you say that, because when I was talking to Victoria and Shelby, I told them both. I said that we actually took both of your auditions, and they didn't audition together because I don't even imagine they know each other yet, right? So, but we took their auditions, and I did this. I should send it to you, dude. And I put them together as if they were having that conversation with that scene that we had them audition for.
Oh yeah.
And it actually looks pretty good. It actually looks because they're both.
That's it there.
Yeah, because they're both at the same emotional level, right? You know what I mean? And that's why, like, I can totally see them having this conversation, which is great.
And I think this is the thing, like the biggest piece of advice I think we would have for any other emerging or independent filmmakers, when you're doing low budget stuff, it's important to remember that the ways that you can create quality with your work and the ways that you can step up the caliber of your work, if you don't have access to the finest cameras in the industry or the finest lighting fixtures in the industry, it's about, you know, getting good performances. But that's going to start with good writing. Like, spend time on your script and write a good story. Get a good story. That's been like the age-old comment that any professional will tell you. And then
it's
from
so
there,
important.
Yeah, when you're making other creative decisions, maybe you don't have the room in your budget to pay for custom costumes and all this other stuff. Well, then it's about, well, you know, let's talk with people about what they own, or can we go to Value Village or some sort of discount clothing store that, you know, sells things used that, you know, like you really got to put your thinking cap on with that stuff. And then I think, you know, one of the important points that our director of photography came out with, Greg Bennett, was, you know, he made.
We'll talk about him in a sec here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about the locations that you choose to film in. And that's been a key piece that Dave and I have been very aware of. You know, and trying to choose locations where it's sort of like, if you've got if you've got a good script, like really good script, okay, great. You're off to a great start. You cast strong performers. You know, it's almost like half of what you need to accomplish is done at that point, because now you
Yeah,
have artists that you can collaborate with. And then if you've got, you know, really great locations, well, now, you know, you're investing the money in the correct places. So now you've got a good story happening in interesting places, performed by, you know, like really strong performances, performed by
that's
really
right.
good people. So now, you know, you could use a lower end camera. You still have to light it well, but you don't need the most expensive stuff. It's going to improve your production value, hands down, always, always. But you can get away with other things and still turn out a great product in the end that might, you know, be festival worthy,
That's right.
worthy of, you know, being a calling card piece for your portfolio and what have you. So,
Right.
and those
It's
are simple choices that
yeah,
a lot
no,
of new filmmakers don't always consider or think about.
look, the advice that Bruce just gave is absolutely incredibly valuable to anybody who is listening, who wants to make movies. I mean, I can't stress how valuable what Bruce, and how much I agree with what Bruce said. Story, remember, always comes first. The good writing, good script, good characters, and then is absolutely first. Let me just bring up Shelby Handley here on the screen. Here's Shelby. She's going to be playing our Emma.
Yeah.
She's going to be playing our Emma. She is the best friend of Sam, played by Victoria Miro. And again, Shelby, same thing. Great creative choices, and she even she even ad-libbed a little bit, because I told them that they were free to do that, because I wanted to see sort of how they handled that. And she was a hoot. I mean, she was fun. And
Great, really strong performance again.
Oh yeah,
it was just really great. Yeah,
really, really great. And so she will be playing our Emma. And then let me just bring up our last one here. In terms of the main cast, this is Malika Henny, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. Malika, if you're watching and I did not get that right, my apologies. She will definitely correct me, I'm sure. This is her here. She will be playing Justine. And Justine, of course, is friends with Sam and Emma. And again, the choices she made were fantastic.
Really great energy. Because energy is important too, right? Because although you've got this lens and there's a distancing with cinematic language and filmmaking, where you've got, you know, we filmed all of this stuff and we're editing it together and you're watching the movie after the fact. Still, the energy of the performer reads through the camera. And how do they connect with the lens? How do they connect with the camera? And how present are they in their mind? And so, you know, there's a lot of similarities, I would say, between, you know, film acting and, like, say, theater performance, but there are very, very distinct differences as well.
That's right.
But I would say one of the commonalities is energy. And energy with the performance. And when you've got that and it's strong and it's focused in the right way, you can tell a thinking actor. And one of the things I think we loved most about all three of them is that we believed, like we both turned to each other and we were like, we believe them. We believe that the words coming out of your mouth, you thought of them. And you're speaking them in real time as you're thinking of it off the top.
Well, that's one of the most important things.
Awesome. I'm sold.
Yes, 100%. I mean, you know, one of the most difficult things in voiceover as well is speaking the words as if they are your own, especially when you're doing narration or any sort of animation, or, you know, you're playing some sort of character, which you're always sort of doing.
Yeah.
And these three
That's the
women,
challenge of the craft, right?
100%. These three women that you see below me here on the screen, they did that. And not that there weren't other talented people that submitted.
Lots
of course,
of talent, lots of great talent.
Lots of talent. These were just the three that resonated with us the most. And of course, a big congratulations to Victoria, Shelby, and Malika. And I cannot wait to work with these three, because I think
I'm excited for production. It's going to be great.
100%. Let's talk a bit about our DP who we brought on board.
Greg. The other reason I'm really excited about production, like, you know, from the location that we still have a few locations left to scout, and that's going to be something that we're going to be scheduling over the coming weeks when it's appropriate to do so,
Right.
for obvious reasons.
Yes.
But we met with Greg and spoke with him about our vision for the film. And Greg is an award-winning director of photography.
Yeah.
And in fact, I had worked with Greg many, many years ago on set when I was just first starting out in the industry. And there was a couple of TV shows that I was working on set, and I was what they call a swing, where I was doing everything from helping with B camera operation to being a grip or electric, being sound operator, being production assistant.
You were working on a lifestyle show.
Yeah, exactly. So, I had to be the jack of all trades and wear many hats, but it taught me a ton and super valuable experience. And that's where I met Greg for the first time.
Yeah.
And so he was the cinematographer on those shows. And he was just awesome to work with. And, shout out to Greg. And so when Dave and I, like, interesting story, if you don't mind me sharing this part.
No, rock on, man. Do it.
So Dave had shortlisted some DPs. I went over to his place one night for a production meeting, and we were talking about the DPs and looking at the profiles and the reels. And he said, here's the guys that I've shortlisted. And I looked at them, and Dave had no idea. He had never met Greg before, had no idea that I knew Greg, had no idea, whatever. And I saw the short list, and I went, oh, I know that guy. Oh, that's Greg. What drew you to his work?
His portfolio.
Yeah, and we looked at his portfolio of work, and again, it was just awesome. Like great.
Well,
great
he's
attention.
working at the top of his game. I mean, he's a two-time CSC, Canadian Society of Cinematographer award nominee.
Yeah,
and
that would be Canada's equivalent to the American Society of Cinematography.
That's right. The ASC. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, with Greg, he's just got great attention to detail for mood and tone and atmosphere, which is what you hear Dave talking about all the time. And that's right. And when we go into making this film, like, I share those values with Dave, like, especially when we're doing this kind of a film, because that's part of the nuance. That's part of what creates the anticipation. Right. It's the theater of the mind, as you always say, right?
100%.
And Greg is great at capturing that kind of stuff. And he's very versatile with his skills because, he's got quite a broad spectrum of work that he's done, both feature films, TV series, to commercials, you name it. And so he's very versatile, which is one of the things that we like, because Dave and I are also versatile with our tastes and things that we'll approach and whatnot. So it's nice to be working with someone else that has that same kind of versatility.
Well, what's so great too, if I may, is that Bruce is right. I had shortlisted about 4 or 5 DPs, and all with great portfolios. And Greg was one that stood out to me. And one of the reasons I said to Bruce, he's like, well, I said, let's reach out to Greg first before we reach out to anybody else, not just because Bruce knows him. I mean, that's a factor, but it was the second thing that Bruce said to me, which was, Greg is terrific to work with. Yeah. And when as you know, half the battle of success is surrounding yourself with the right people. Yeah. And when you said,
to have a good crew that, works together and that, because that's a big piece of it, where everyone is, it's kind of like a small family that you've got that you're working with for like a very fixed period of time.
That's right.
But you really come close together in a very short period of time, remain close. And then that's when, and that's why some people develop friendships after that.
That's right.
Because it sometimes it's a very intense experience too.
That's right.
Depending on the subject matter that's being shot.
That's
so
right.
It's,
no, you're bang on. And I had never met Greg. We had a meeting with him, I guess about a week and a half or so ago now. Mm-hmm. And we went to a bar in Toronto or a pub, I should say, and had a bite to eat. And I got to know Greg, and he's so chill and relaxed and very great. But what's interesting is that I remember when you excused yourself to go to the bathroom, And I was showing Greg, of course, we're keeping this a secret for now, but there is a location where it's the main location where we'll be shooting the vast majority of the movie, at least hoping to, because it depends on cost and budget, which is why when we will be talking about our Indiegogo campaign here in a moment, but that's why it's so important that, we need your guys' help to make this a reality. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So when you went to the bathroom and I was showing Greg this main location, which we were going to go see tomorrow, but of course it has to be put on hold because of everything that's going on.
Right.
I'm showing him this, and I'm showing him on my phone, and he's looking at it, and is he's not losing control, because Greg is calm, cool, and collected. That's one thing I like about Greg. Yeah. But you could see that as a professional cinematographer, you could see the wheels turning in his head. You could see that he was like, oh wow, okay. Now in my opinion, now again, I don't know Greg. Greg, I don't want to put you on the spot. I love you, man. I love you already. I don't even know, I hardly know you, and I love you. But Greg strikes me as the kind of guy that, oh, interesting, wow, is like Bruce and I going, wow, fuck yeah.
Right, he's more reserved.
He's more reserved, right? But I could totally kind of see him going, okay, this is like right, as a DP, he was imagining, I got a lot of room to play. Like I got a lot of room to work with Dave and Bruce, and kind of, wow, this is a really cool location. So that was really sort of exciting, because, we didn't know at the end of the meeting if Greg was going to say, you know what, I'm down, let's do it. Or if he was going to say, you know what, it's not personal, but I'm not feeling it. It was great to catch up, which he could have done as well. But thankfully he didn't. And he said that he really liked the idea. And I think he, I think every DP likes an opportunity to, at some point, and Greg has as well, but likes working in that moody horror atmosphere. It's fun for, DPs to create that because the cinematography is so important.
Yes.
To the, like, the cinematography is almost a character, and every DP loves that opportunity to play in that sandbox. So
I think you hit the nail on the head with that, because it gives them the opportunity to shape and craft the light, which is what we need.
100%.
But, Dave and I like to take a collaborative approach when directing. We come to the table with a very specific vision, but a vision that also has room for flexibility to accommodate other people's ideas.
That's right.
And I think that's another important note for emerging and independent filmmakers, is that you might be like, I always like to use the reference, say when they were shooting The Matrix, and the Wachowski siblings, when they were like, they had storyboarded that like a comic book, and shot for shot, it was hyper specific, and they went after that and achieved that.
Oh yeah.
And that can be very successful if you've got the budget and the focus, and you have that level of leadership that you can really command that.
That's right.
And sometimes that may be needed for very complex work like The Matrix. But when you also get to other types of projects, it might be better to take a very collaborative approach. And I would say in majority of cases, a collaborative approach will be required, and there will be certain contexts, right?
Yep.
Because like, we want to allow the actresses and respect their role. We want to respect the role of the director of photography. So, and so forth, because we're bringing them on board as artists to bring their artistic vision to the piece as well. They help enrich it. And so as directors, we're going to give you the framework. We're going to work with you to, create the outline, help shape it and frame it, bring things back in alignment if we feel it's gone off track.
That's right.
Give specifics where needed, and then also collaborate with those folks and get their contributions into the piece. And then it really enriches the project.
Filmmaking is a collaborative effort. And, there's a lot of important relationships that a director or directors have on a set. It depends on the size of the production. It depends on what's all involved. But one of, if not the most important relationships you will ever have as a director is with your director of photography.
Yeah.
And because, the relationship that you have with that individual, it's their job to create your vision and to create and to bring their level of expertise to the table in helping to shape that vision. And so, it's always important that you have a strong relationship with your DP, somebody who understands you. And speaking with Greg for the couple hours that we did, I liked what he had to say. I like his calm, cool demeanor, because what's also important too is it's nice to have somebody on board who when shit hits the fan, because in any production there's always obstacles and problem solving that you have to do. Maybe not shit hits the fan, that's a little too extreme, but when problems arise,
challenges that arise,
right,
absolutely,
it's great to have somebody like Greg with his level of experience who can also, turn to me and say, well, you know what, Dave, I know you were thinking that, but why don't we do this? And we're still going to get the same thing. And it's kind of like, oh, dude, you know what? You're fucking right. And and that might not be somebody, or that may not have been something that I was able to see, but he knows it because he's done it 8 times, and that's, I really like that about Greg. And, so and again, we haven't assembled the rest of our crew yet, but we wanted to, let's talk about the Indiegogo campaign here. We wanted to, and again, let me say this, Bruce and I are really excited about this. We think it is a really cool extension of the original Black Christmas story that, dare I say, if it is successful, there may be room for maybe something else after that. Just want to say, I'm not going to say too much, but there could be a little bit if it's, and how do we determine if it's, successful? Well, that would be by, of course, the views and the feedback and the feedback and the reception of it. I mean, Never Hike Alone right now has over 1 million views. So it clearly was hugely successful. And there is no doubt that Never Hike in the Snow, which raised $100,000 US.
Again, incredible.
So, I mean, that's the kind of, and again, so that's how you determine if things are, successful in the non-commercial for profit world. And if It's Me, Billy is successful and people like it and like our direction, and look, not everybody's going to like it. I mean, there will be people that are not going to like it, and there will be people that love it. That's just the reality of making films, and you put it out there and you let the chips fall where they may. But we always hope that more people like it than not. And if the reception is good, we have some ideas. We'll just leave it at that. We have some ideas. But so we're really excited about this, and we've assembled a great cinematographer. We've assembled a very talented main cast, and again, there's other roles that we haven't filled yet. But of course, we're working towards launching our Indiegogo campaign. Now, one thing I want to say, and I've said this before, but I want to say it again. There's a couple of ways to go about this, because some people have reached out to me and said, you haven't raised the money yet for it, so why did you decide to cast your main cast, get your DP first? And I think that's a very good question.
Yeah, fair.
And one of the reasons why we decided to do it this way, there's a couple of ways you can do Indiegogo campaigns. There are some that try to raise the money first and then go and cast everybody. And then there are some campaigns that are very successful as well, I might add, that have at least their main cast or a main actor or their DP and producer, whatever, already in place. Because it helps their Indiegogo campaign, actually gives authenticity and credibility to it, and lets potential donors know that we're serious about this. We are really serious about this.
Vision too.
That's right.
Because now people can imagine what the performers are looking like. And
that's right.
And so when we talk about the film, when we talk about story ideas, they're able to imagine and visualize.
Right.
Especially with someone like Greg on board, if you're to search up his work, then you start to get a sense of, some of the tonality that we will be going for. It's going to be specific. It's not going to be exactly the same. It's going to be specific to this piece. And like I said, he's very versatile, but it's, I think it really helps with that visualization part of it, helping people just imagine, and again, gets excited, and that credibility, like you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we did that. Now, the actors, Malika and Shelby and Victoria, as well as Greg, they're not under any misconceptions. They know that this is dependent largely on a successful Indiegogo campaign, and but they're excited. I mean, I can't tell you that these three actors are just over the moon about this. Like, they just were really excited about this, and I've said to them, when the campaign launches, spread it around, to your friends and to your family as well. And that's what we'll need you guys to do. Now, okay, so the Indiegogo campaign, the goal was to launch it. The original goal was to launch it next month, in April. Now, unfortunately, because of everything that's going on with COVID-19, Bruce and I think it's best that we hold off to at least May. It may be longer than that, but we're sort of going month to month right now, or week to week, month to month. So we figure, okay, let's wait out April, see where the world is at April 30th. If the world seems to be, if we've able to sort of plateau and we seem to be on a downward trend, Bruce and I have our ear to the floor in the industry as well. Our production starting up again, are things sort of getting back to not normal. I mean, I think it'll be several months, maybe even in the fall before that really happens. But is there room where things are starting to kind of pick up again? In May, maybe not. Maybe May we're still where we are now, and we got to push it to June. So it's still sort of this week to week, month to month thing, right? Yeah. So we feel that it's a smart thing to do because we are counting on donors to help make this a reality. And right now, as Bruce said, before we went live, it's important that people as well, you guys out there have the opportunity to focus your resources and money on the real important things of the world, which is, keeping your family fed, safe, and secure. Yeah. And hopefully this will, be done sooner rather than later, hopefully. And then we can launch, the campaign and get that up and going. But I think we're in agreement on that, right?
Yeah, 100%. We really want to convey the message to everyone that, like the rest of the industry, we are actively assessing, keeping our ear to the ground, like Dave said, reading the news, keeping in touch with everything, and just assessing. We just feel as though this is really legitimately the most responsible choice that we can make for you, the donors, for the people, and for the project itself. Because we're excited about it. And the last thing we want is for it to fall flat because, we didn't put on our strategic thinking caps and really think that through. We want to be sensitive and mindful to what's going on and make the right choice for the project.
That's right.
And make the right choice for people that are involved. And not be insensitive to that. So it's important to us. And that's why we chose to take this approach. We think it's the most responsible approach. And again, we'll continue to keep everyone posted. We may 100%. Still post some, teaser bits. I'm working on some concept art and some storyboards. So Dave and I are going to continue to work on the development of the project. We can still work to brainstorm things and develop our shot lists and storyboard sequences and share some of that with you guys, to kind of tease and give you a little bit of something, So we're still going to continue working on that kind of stuff and continue talking about the project and still remain as engaged as possible with it. And we'll keep everyone posted on, like where it goes and what's happening, because we're still super excited. Like I was saying to Dave,
thrilled.
Kind of coming back to the beginning of our conversation today, I was saying to him, when I wasn't quite on board with in the beginning with the idea of doing the Black Christmas piece, but even prior to that, we had agreed unequivocally. We're like, we want to definitely make something. Like we're overdue, to collaborate on a project and do something again. So, it's also like doing this project is feeding that creative need. And any artists that are out there listening to this or watch this after the fact, you'll agree.
It was just a sneeze, folks. It wasn't Corona. Okay, go on.
With any artists watching, I'm confident that you would agree. You have that creative need, that creative itch that needs to be
100%.
scratched to make something, and this is that for us as well. And
Oh, for sure.
that's what we call passion, because we're just excited to, like, I've loved the creative process, and it's just like, we'll get together and we'll be spending literally 6-7 hours in a day working on
Oh,
this project.
100%. I mean, I remember when I posted that photo of us, and I said just finished. I think it was like a 9 or 10 hour production meeting, and
Yeah.
some people were like, yeah, and I'm like, no,
No, for real.
literally,
That's it.
literally, like we're
not
sitting
meeting every day, but when we do
yeah.
meet,
Yeah, exactly. Like
we're in it. We're
I
in it.
100%. We'll sit in here for like 3 hours, and we got the computer on. We're talking, and you got your thing and your and then we'll go out there and we'll sit out there and we'll have some lunch, and then we're just like, we're always talking about it. We are so passionate about wanting to bring this to you guys, but we can't do it without your help. So when the Indiegogo campaign does launch, now some people have asked, how much money are you looking to raise? Well, we still don't have an exact figure on that, but I think it's safe to say that when we do, it's probably going to be anywhere between $40,000 to $50,000. It'll probably be somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a little less. I don't see it being more than that, but it'll probably be somewhere in there. And I get a lot of people asking too, because here's a bit of perspective. I've said this, before, but making movies, whether it's short films or features, it's not cheap. Whether it's independent or studio, it's not cheap. And, you have to remember that even the rental of locations where you're going to shoot cost money. And depending on where you're shooting, sometimes it can cost you anywhere between, $1,000 to a couple of grand a day. And that's just shooting at the location. That doesn't cover, insurance and equipment and travel and payment and feeding people, housing people, it really does. Everything that is raised through the Indiegogo campaign goes right back into the production of the film and the distribution of all the perks that, eventually will, the shipping and the, all that kind of, and the ordering of, of certain perks, as well, because we have to wait and see how many of this we need, because how many people got that perk. Okay, well then we got to order that, what I mean, and then we put it, and it's a big ordeal, but we are so excited for it. And once the Indiegogo campaign does officially launch, there'll be a press release that I'll put out to the online publications and see who wants to pick it up, but we are really excited about it. I mean, but we definitely need you guys. We need your, like, if you want to see these three ladies here below me in those roles of Sam, Emma, and Justine, and then we definitely need your help. It's but I think we can do it. I'm really hoping that, and there'll be other ways too, like Bruce and I are thinking about doing a couple of It's Me Billy-a-thons here on my channel, where we go for a number of hours just taking super chat questions and all that kind of stuff, and other ways as well. We might even have a link set up, an email set up for people who want to donate to the film, but don't necessarily want to buy a perk. So, maybe they've already got a couple of perks. Like, well, I got that, I got this, and I have some money, and I want to give it to you guys, but I don't want to have to buy that perk again. So we might set up an email where you can, it's like PayPal, and it goes, to the PayPal, I donate $5 to that, I donate you whatever. And it's not necessarily towards the Indiegogo, but it's another option for those who may have already donated to the campaign and they don't want another Blu-ray. Yeah, that's right. Blu-ray with an option, folks. There you go. Teaser. But they want to give more. So maybe they wanted to, we're thinking of different options to help raise. But if we can raise it all with the Indiegogo campaign, that would be amazing too. You know what I mean? I'm excited, man. Like, I'm just,
same.
I mean, just this location and the people we've have on board. I really am excited.
I'm most excited for the location scout. Like, at the moment, when I think like sort of next steps, the thing I'm most excited about is seeing our main location, because we've got this one particular spot that we'll be scheduling a location and tech scout, and it's awesome. And if we can land that, that's again, with the donations, it's going to allow us to bring an authenticity to the film that will match that of the original Black Christmas.
Exactly.
And again, that's the comment that we were making earlier about how location is so important. And when you're dealing with an existing location, it's like half of the work is done, but it starts with making that smart choice,
That's
that
right.
smart decision at the outset. And then it's a wise financial investment, right?
That's right.
So we're super excited about that, and we'll have more info to come once that's all locked into place. So,
Exactly.
we'll keep everyone posted. Yeah.
Exactly. Listen, I know you got to go soon. Let's see if we can get a few questions in here.
Yeah, let's do it.
From people. Let me just go to a couple super chats came in earlier. I want to make sure I don't miss those. Just a couple of them. Michaela Snow sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Michaela. Says, hey, Dave, quick question. Are you going to have to shave for Freddy, or are you wearing a mask? I will have to shave, because when Cecil and the crew of Dylan's New Nightmare, when we eventually do go to camera, hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. It won't be at the end of May, unfortunately, because that has to be pushed. But it is actual prosthetics. So big shout out to Nora Hewitt, who is a professional Hollywood special effects makeup artist. When I was in Hollywood in November, she did a life cast of my face, and she is going to be designing, like, totally legit, 100% Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger. I will be in a makeup chair for 5 hours every day. Let's just say,
Dave showed me photos of some of the original work when he was down there in LA, and it's super impressive. Impressive. It's going to look fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah. But yes, no, it will not be a mask. It will be prosthetic makeup. And let's see, Z Go RZ Skate 45. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Buddy says, bring Brucifier on more often. Dude's chock full of great information. You guys have good chemistry, and I'm super looking forward to It's Me, Billy. Well, Bruce is definitely going to be on the show more often, aren't you, Bruce?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I mean, we got to get, and as It's Me, Billy ramps up, you'll be on a lot.
Yeah. And fun fact, I don't know if we've ever disclosed this before, but this kind of thing is very familiar for Dave and I, because one of the other things that we did when we were 13, 14 years old, not only were we making movies, but we also did our own talk show. We called it Bruce and Dave's World Television Talk Show. Yeah. And again, shooting on VHS, high 8. We showed it to our parents and our friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't have, like, YouTube didn't exist at that point. I know I'm dating myself by saying that.
Oh, the internet wasn't even a thing, really.
No,
it wasn't at all.
No,
I mean, it existed, but it wasn't like
military and government and whatever.
That's right.
It became public, I'd say, right around the end of the 90s as we bridged into the new millennium.
That's right.
It was, but yeah, we used to do that, and we had tons of fun. We were just ridiculous teenagers.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was great. Bringer of Chaos sends in a $3.99 super chat. Just says, just supporting the channel. Thank you, buddy. Really, really appreciate that. Thanks very much. Let's see here. Jay Nike says, Bruce, have you seen Visiting Hours from 1982, a great slasher Canadian movie that was filmed in Montreal? I've heard of Visiting Hours, but I haven't seen it. Have you seen it, Bruce?
I haven't. No, I haven't seen that. I'm going to add that to my watch list.
Absolutely. Oliver Mercer says, hey, Bruce, would there be anything you have worked on that you are most proud of?
Oh, yeah. So I'm assuming that we're talking about movie projects.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Yeah. Well, I think about, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Most proud of, there's a lot of projects that I'm proud of, like what we were able to achieve with what little we had. I think that's a big part of it. I think what we were able to achieve with the lighting, with the Halloween film that we did, the 45-minute short,
right? Like
lighting the exterior of the house, and some of the content there, and because I was sort of Dave's gaffer really for a large part of that project, and I was very proud of the work that I had done, because I hadn't had the opportunity to really focus on that in that way before, in such a predominant way. So I was very proud of that work and doing that on that piece.
That's cool.
And I would say some of the pieces that I've done that I've had in film festivals, because some of my own personal work is what I would refer to as a type of kinetic poetry,
Right.
where I have a love for cinematography and visual effects editing, also known as composite editing. So I would combine those two disciplines, write my own pieces, and then shoot stuff, and then composite things together. And I've had a number of pieces screen in different festivals. So I was very proud of that work as well, for what I was able to achieve. So yeah, I would put those things down. Yeah.
Cool. Do you remember any, not that I'm not saying you'd be proud of this, but I'm curious, do you remember when you first started working at White's, some of the productions that you sent the orders for?
Oh yeah. So when I was a client service representative, we supplied The Incredible Hulk, which
Right.
was the first or second movie in
I
the
think it was,
22 movie Marvel
I think it
saga.
was second, I think.
Yeah.
I think Iron
So
Man was first.
yeah, and they kept rewriting the ending, and I remember the production schedule got delayed and delayed, and then we later found out that it's because they kept doing rewrites, and we didn't
Mm,
understand why there were so many rewrites. But now, obviously, in hindsight, looking back, it's very clear. It's like, well, yeah, look at the magic and awesomeness that you created.
right.
Um, what other thing? There's a lot of
I
things.
know. There's a lot of stuff.
I have a hard time remembering that far back, to be honest, because so much has happened
Hey,
since then.
Bruce, in 2009,
Yeah. And like
David,
at White's at the moment, my role there is as a learning and development professional. Like I have my
that's right.
certification that I just
Yeah.
recently achieved in that. And so, I deal with, needs assessments to instructional design to teaching and facilitation to evaluation. And it's a real mixture of all of that. And I lead a small team of people, of other learning development professionals. So, but there's a lot of crafting. Like I'll do all of the internal training videos and stuff, right? So as a filmmaker, I'm recording the voiceovers, I'm shooting the footage, and producing professional quality stuff for the corporation,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of fun. And sometimes those are the most fun aspects of that job.
Gotcha. David Lee Barron sends in a super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, do you think we will get Michael's POV in Halloween Kills? Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. Halloween, like a POV shot looking through like as if it's Michael. I'm going to say yes. Halloween Kills, of course, is the sequel to the 2018 film. It's supposed to be coming out later this year. We'll see what happens there. Here's a question for you. Super Saiyan Ryu? I always get that mixed up. Hopefully I said your name right, buddy. Hey, Bruce, Dave has told us that Training... I did? I guess I must have. That Training Day is your favorite movie of all time. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll say that it's one of my favorites.
Yes.
I have a really hard time narrowing it down to just one specific film.
Yeah, me
So
too.
Training Day is at the top of my list. One of my favorite films. Absolutely. I love Denzel's performance. He's just so badass gangster. One of my favorite moments. Like I love, I'm a big hip hop fan too. So, and some of the old school classics like Dre and Snoop Dogg and Nas and, all those guys, right? And like, to Biggie, Tupac, like all of it. So, of course, there's a track from Still Dre, his Chronic 2001 album that's in there. And I just love that moment where Ethan Hawke is like, so how far is it to the office? And Denzel's like, well, you're looking at it, baby. And then like they get in the car and the song drops and they cut to it. And it's just like some it was just so gangster and badass.
Right.
And just like some of the cinematography and things that they did with that, like just purely from a directing point of view.
Right.
I loved it. And it was just a really nice crafted, complete story that came full circle, nice reveals at the right moments. I totally understand why Denzel was nominated for the Academy Award for that. And it was just, I just thought it was a great movie. Like just the writing to the directing, just well produced, great cast, excellent performances, great cinematography. Like just all around really great movie.
Right.
In all the categories that I would talk about.
Cool. That's a great answer. Listen, it's 1:01 p.m. You got to skedaddle, don't you?
I do. Yeah. I do. Yeah.
I do. No, I do.
I do. But I just want to say thanks, man. Like this has been like awesome. And for all
listen,
the folks that are out there.
Yeah. And let me just say, the plan was to get more questions in with Bruce, but as you can see, there was a lot to talk about. It's also too because we wanted to talk, about COVID-19 and how that's impacting the film industry, and so that took up a lot of time too. But we felt it was important as well. But don't worry, Bruce will be on the channel again, and hopefully when COVID-19 has died, and there'll be more time to ask him more questions as we're on, because let's not forget, we're also planning on doing an It's Me Billy-a-thon to help with the campaign, which will be nothing but questions. Now it'll be super chat ones, but it'll be nothing but questions. So don't worry, you will get a chance to ask Bruce as many questions as you want in the very near future. Robert Kitzmiller just sends in a super chat, $2 to supporting the channel. Thank you, Robert. Really appreciate that. But yeah, Bruce, I mean, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
This is dope. Yeah.
Like, this has been a lot of fun. It's great to talk to you in this capacity, and just sort of, also too, just kind of continue to get people excited about this project, because I'm like, we are genuinely really excited about this. Yeah. So, any last things? Oh, and by the way, Bruce's social media at the bottom of the page there, you can see his Twitter is @Dale_Bruce. If you want to follow Bruce on Twitter, it is @Dale_Bruce. And if you want to follow him on Instagram, you can see there it is @Egyptian_Inc. @Egyptian_Inc. And you might be thinking, why Egyptian? Well, Bruce is half Egyptian. That's why. So that's why.
That's why.
That's why. So make sure you follow him on social media as well. I'm going to hit that Patreon thing in a moment, and you'll probably hear me. I'm going to read some of the names off of the Patreon page. And then, but stick around, Bruce. Don't go anywhere, because I know you got to go, but I just want to say goodbye to you formally off air. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good. And thanks, everyone. It was just great to connect. Thanks for your questions and stuff, and I will be back. He will be back.
You hear that? He will be back. If there's nothing you can do about it. Hey, there are the ladies right there. Victoria Miro, Shelby Handley, and Malika Henny, I believe. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And of course our DP right in the middle there, Greg Bennett. That's what we got. It's coming, folks. We're gonna need your help when that campaign launches eventually. I'll make a post about that later today on social media as well. That is gonna do it for me. I will be back, if I'm not back, sometime between now and Monday, doing a standalone video. I will be back on the channel Monday night at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with episode 62, I think it is, of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. I will make the announcement of what Tony and I will be talking about then, or at some point over the weekend. But you guys are amazing. You guys know I love you. Thank you so much for the super chats and the questions, and thank you for listening to Bruce and I talking about this. Gain that, just put it in the, just hype, man, hype. Just, it's me. It's coming. It's coming. All right. I got. By the way, I have some toilet paper here. If anybody needs any, I can send you this in the mail. Just let me know your address. It's a hot commodity right now. But listen, I am only using right now. I'm using that much when I go to the bathroom. I'm trying to ration my. Don't ask how I make it work. I just make it work.
We don't need those details.
All right, guys, I'll talk to you guys soon. Stay safe. Stay safe in there. All righty, cheers. Look at these names. Look at that. Ethan LeBlanc is there. We got Bob Devon, Tabitha Short, Todd Fair. These great names. Tommy Ricknell. Love you guys. Phil two times. What do we got? There's JP DeStefano, director, writer, producer of Halloween Night. Make sure you check that out. Bill Paxton. Incredible. All right, I'm out of here.